And we are live. Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Hi there, out in internet land. I hear the familiar jingling of our friend Charbonneau, who has decided to join us because he hears me talking all of a sudden. Hi, Charbo. How are you? Did you all see on Facebook yesterday when Charbonneau and Yorkie got into the catnip? They made a mess. They got very high. They made a mess in the kitchen. And they regurgitated kitty crunchies in the dining room. Well, their other cat, Corduroy, was at the studio participating in democracy, meeting the candidate for lieutenant governor, being a responsible member of a democratic society. These little miscreants were off getting high. What is happening to this world? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome back to Benchley Night. This is the first Benchley Night since March 13th. And I've been down in Apalachicola, Florida, and then was spreading my sister's ashes at her house in Western North Carolina, which was very emotional. And we're going to have some big announcements about stuff about my sister later this month. But for right now, we're going to travel back in time to when pterodactyls flew across the sky, and it was in the early 1960s in Milford, New Hampshire, or 1959, I guess, in Milford, New Hampshire, for the William and Charles Museum. So thank you for joining us, everybody. First, of course, we have a few people to thank. The Liberal Snowplowing Do-Gooder Fund. The beneficiary tonight is my personal 501c3, Rockingham Entertainment Development, attempting to use the arts to be an economic engine for our downtown, primarily through activities at the Bellows Falls Opera House. And we have some people to thank. Ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, Cheryl. First off, we want to thank the awesome Terry Hudson. We want to thank the wonderful Martha Rowley. We want to thank the excellent Catherine Fisher. We want to thank the stupendous John Wilhelm. We want to thank the exceptional Rick Gavatsky. We want to thank the extremely beloved Sharon Kegaris. We want to thank the stalwart, dear friend Sarah Ovenden. We want to thank the woman who keeps the glue together for Southern Vermont Idol, keeps the dreams, hopes and dreams of countless youth alive and well here in the area. The wonderful Susan McNeil. And we want to thank out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a man who dances where the sky shadows fall. A man who towers over, yea, even the Gulf building in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The one, the only, the very, very, very tall cousin, Mr. Nat Hunter, and his wonderful wife, Elise. Thank you all so much. Now, the William and Charles Museum is an illustrated book. It was written, well, ostensibly by Edith and William Hunter, illustrated by Elizabeth Hunter, but I am looking at the copyright here. And it says, printed in the United States of America at the Hunter Press, Milford, New Hampshire. Copyright 1959 by Edith Hunter. So if my brother Will is watching, you might want to check whether you've been screwed out of royalties over all these years, William. So let us get going. Now, as I said, this is a picture book. So I had a discussion with the exceptional Betty Sue today. Betty Sue down there in Austin, Texas, who handles almost all of my technical stuff. And she helped me ponder the right thing to do regarding all the pictures. Normally, I would hold up the book like this crookedly, and people would be like, what the hell is he doing? She suggested I create a slideshow, so I created a slideshow. And I'm going to make myself even smaller as I read this, so you can see as large as possible very important pictures. This is the cover. This is the cover of the William and Charles Museum, a family book by Edith and William Hunter. That's our house in Milford, New Hampshire, which still stands today. I drove past it fairly recently. It's not as great as it was then, but it was a great house to grow up in, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen. So as I get to each page with its attendant picture, I'm going to click the next slide. Now, this will be a challenge because I've never done this before, so please bear with me. Bear with me. Okay. This is the staff. The staff is head curator is William A. Hunter. Assistant head curator, Charles W. Hunter. Curator, Elizabeth C. Hunter. Assistant curator, Graham C. Hunter. Maintenance, Armstrong Hunter. Janitor, Edith Hunter. Watchdog, Rosemary. Mouser, Cat. Once upon a time, right now, there are two brothers, William and Charles. They live in an old farmhouse in New Hampshire. In the old farmhouse, there was an empty room. William's father thought that someday he might put a bathroom there. But before he had the chance, William made it into a museum. The museum is a little more than 1 year old. William, who is 6 now, is the head curator. In a museum, the head curator is the person who runs it. He decides what to put into the museum and where to put the things. Charles is the assistant head curator. He is 1 year old, almost exactly the same age as the museum. He will always be the same age as the museum, too. Charles has not been alive long enough to know much about museums or to collect many things. And that's true even today, ladies and gentlemen. William collects things and gives them to Charles still, even today. Charles has not been alive long enough to know much about museums or to collect many things, but he gives his empty vitamin bottles and baby food jars to the museum. And does he get a tax write-off, ladies and gentlemen? I doubt it. William stores things in jars. He uses the vitamin bottle droppers to drop water on the slides of the family telescope. And there he is, already practicing for his later career in big pharma, ladies and gentlemen, with the family microscope, and right behind it, the family cash register. William examines a specimen. William and Charles have another brother, Graham. He is 12 years old and is in the 7th grade. He knows how to make things. Some of the models he has made are in the museum. Graham made an electric buzzer for the William and Charles Museum. He put a picture of an owl up on the front of the wooden stand. Underneath the picture, he put 5 screws, and under each screw, the name of a different kind of owl. If you touch the pointer to the screw that has the right name of the owl, it will buzz. Sometimes it doesn't work, and the head curator has to buzz instead. Graham also made a reflectoscope for the museum. It works something like a mirror. William shuts out all the lights in the playroom. and shines the light from the reflectoscope on a sheet that he has hung up for a screen. With the reflectoscope, William can show pictures from his postcard collection, stamps from his stamp collection, or any small object in the museum. He can even show his own face or the hands of the assistant head curator. William and Charles have a sister, Elizabeth. She is 14 years old. She likes to sew, and she likes to sew, and she showed William how to make William and Charles Museum souvenir banners. She sold William some cloth for them from her boxes of cloth. No shortage of capitalism in the Hunter family, even at that date, though she ended up being quite anti-capitalist, I would think. There's a picture of a piece of granite on the banner. That is the symbol for the William and Charles Museum, because it is in Milford, New Hampshire, the granite town in the granite state. Elizabeth gave the museum many, many fine specimens of stones and shells. She also drew the pictures for this book. William and Charles and Graham and Elizabeth have a father and a mother. Their father is the maintenance man of the museum. He builds shelves and he glues broken things. He designed this book. Their mother is the janitor of the museum. She sweeps the steps. She is also the president. She and William wrote this book. Charbonneau has decided this is very interesting. Yeah. There are many kinds of things in the museum. There are rocks, lots of rocks. There are shells, lots of shells. There is a very special chambered nautilus shell. And there is the head curator and the chambered nautilus shell. The head curator has a large head, which is not unlike the chambered nautilus shell, I must say, in kind of general visage. Hang on, Cheryl. There are nests that the birds around the farm have built and do not need anymore. There are robins' nests, orioles' nests, sparrows' nests. There's even a chimney swift's nest. Sometimes the chimney swifts get mixed up and they come down the chimney right into the house. Then Elizabeth catches them in her butterfly net and takes them out of doors. Oh, I'm going to expand to full size for a second here. Charbonneau, can you see? He's got his paw up. He does this yeah. He's not trying to kill me. It's just he likes to extend his paw. Okay. The museum has an aquarium too. In it are snails, tadpoles, caddis worms, and other tiny living things. One day, the janitor noticed that one of the tadpoles seemed to have a leg, but when she looked carefully, she saw the leg was not a leg, but a bloodsucker. The janitor took the bloodsucker off the tadpole, and the head curator put it in a baby food jar with some water. It was interesting to watch. It could curl up into a little ball, or it could stretch out long and skinny. One day in winter, the museum was so cold that the water froze, but the bloodsucker did not die. He just curled up in a ball. And that little bloodsucker, ladies and gentlemen, grew up to be Donald Trump. No, Charles. Don't interject politics into this story of childhood innocence. When William had his tonsils out, Charles and the janitor had to go down to the brook and reach through the ice for a pail of water to refill the aquarium. And here's a picture of the assistant head curator with his pail of water and his little go-kart. There's almost always a rainbow on the floor of the museum in the afternoon. This is because the museum faces west, and the afternoon sun shines in. It shines through the aquarium and makes the rainbow. Sometimes Charles tries to pick up the rainbow. Can he? A winter garden is in the museum. It is filled with plants from the woods. There are ferns, moss, bright red British soldiers, tiny mushrooms, puffballs, fungus. There are bright red partridge berries and wintergreen berries too. A little live toad has been living happily in the winter garden for many months. He has become the same color as the soil. In the spring, William will take him out and put a new toad in. That sentence fascinates me, ladies and gentlemen. Is it like, that there's acknowledgement that it's sort of a prison for toads? So after this toad has served his sentence and paid his debt to society, they put a new toad in there, or it's never explained. But here's the janitor in the winter garden. William put a furry caterpillar into the winter garden. It climbed up into a corner and it made its cocoon out of its own hair. It will hatch as a moth in the early spring. One special thing in the museum is a map of the United States. Strings are taped to different states. The other ends of the string lead to specimens from those places. William mailed cards to friends asking them to send nature specimens from their states. Graham set the type and printed the cards on his little printing press. He also printed signs for William to put up around the house to show the way to the museum. William paid for the printing with money from the souvenir banners and with money that he earned from other jobs. Now, who bought the souvenir banners? That's what I want to know. I suspect it was probably family members. So there was a lot of money changing hands, but it all kind of stayed within a closed loop. There are many friends of the William and Charles Museum now. When they come to visit, they sign the guest list. This picture shows William taking his friend Catherine to visit the museum. At first, when Catherine was not even 2 years old, she did not understand about museums. She picked up specimens and dropped them down the stairs onto the head curator's head. A rule was made then. No visitors under 3 without a grown-up. Now Catherine knows about museums, but the assistant head curator is something of a problem. He is apt to eat the specimens. That's true, because we had maple crystals, ladies and gentlemen, from maple sugaring, and those were delicious. They looked a lot like the quartz crystals, which are made out of quartz and turned out not to be good to eat at all. But there is the head curator and his visitor, Catherine. I did a painting from that photograph last year, purchased by my college friend, David Erlanger. It was very nice of him. Many people have sent things to the museum. From Palm Desert, California came a very large box. Amongst other things, it contained grapefruit leaves. William and Charles have never seen grapefruit growing. Cactus leaves that were so prickly that the head curator had to wear gloves to unpack them. Puncture vines whose seeds have such sharp points that they can go through, they can puncture a bicycle tire. The children who sent this exhibit wanted to gather some very special stones, but they could not go out to look for them because there were too many rattlesnakes around at the time. A box came from the northwest corner of the United States at the edge of the Pacific Ocean. It contained 2 beautiful sand dollars, smooth stones, and a soft piece of driftwood. The stones and the driftwood were as smooth as the assistant head curator's cheek, which I think was somewhat smoother then than it is now. They had been made smooth and soft by being tossed around in the great ocean. How could anything as big and rough as an ocean make things soft and smooth? Among the specimens from Knoxville, Tennessee, were sandstone and marble. Some of it was rough, and some of it was beautifully polished. Whoops. Uh-oh, wrong slide. Back. There we go. No. Uh-oh, I think I left out a slide, ladies and gentlemen. Yep, I left out a slide. I'll show it. I'll make my head large. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I wanted to be doing. How much better the slides are, ladies and gentlemen. How much better. A very special package came with pieces of stone from New Mexico. When the stone was broken open, William found pictures of shells inside. How did they get there? Millions of years ago, there was a great ocean covering that part of the United States. And in the ocean were sea animals. Gradually, the sea went away, and the layers of sand that were laid down, shells were buried in them. After a very long time, the layers of sand turned to rock. The prints of the shells in the rocks are called fossils. Now I put this back in there. There we go. After one family visited the William and Charles Museum, they decided they would start a museum too. William and Charles sent many specimens of granite to the museum. This museum is the Stephen and David Museum of Mansfield, Massachusetts. I just want to point out the Stephen and David Museum never got a book like this printed. It's like Exeter and Andover. Museums are fun. William and Charles never know when Sal, the mailman, is going to stop next with a package or a letter for the William and Charles Museum. And that is Sal Saraceno, the mailman, in his bright red 1957 Ford Fairlane. And behind him is what we call the bicycle shed. That was one of our barns. You could injure yourself in so many good ways back in those barns, ladies and gentlemen. I do paintings of them now. I'm sort of haunted by those barns. I love them. They're gone. This is a great picture. William spends many hours rearranging the museum, making room for new exhibits, putting up new scenes with specimens he already has. You could have a museum too. There's so many kinds of things in this world. You could have one entirely different from the William and Charles Museum. If you do not have an extra room, you could have it in a corner of your room. You need only 2 things to start a museum: eyes that see interesting out-of-door things, and hands that pick them up. Now, the caption for this one, ladies and gentlemen, is "The head curator is ready for a field trip." The thing you need, be sure to take a look at the fact that the head curator has around his belt a set of keys, probably like 30 keys. They didn't open anything. They're just keys that he had collected. And apparently they weighed so much. I remember Ibby telling me that they weighed so much that he'd be on his tricycle and put the keys on the handlebar, and he'd get off the tricycle and the tricycle would tip over. So he's got an attaché case, purse, and a set of 30 keys, and a very styling beret, I must say. Oh my goodness, that's the final sentence. You need only 2 things to start a museum: eyes that see interesting out-of-door things, and hands that pick them up. And then there's a picture of ferns, an old nail, and an old iron hinge. And then the back cover, ladies and gentlemen. The back cover is the promotional blurb. It says, "A tale to delight every family that has a young collector, Parents Magazine." And you know what a young collector turns into, ladies and gentlemen? Young collectors. It's a useful euphemism for hoarders. A tale to delight every family that has a young collector, Parents Magazine. The William and Charles Museum. Museum? Yes, but a very special kind of museum. Not the kind filled with dried up fossils in glass cases and housed in an enormous building. Williams is a live museum. It's alive because it has living things in it. Plants, caterpillars, snails, even tadpoles. And because it is always growing. Every day, William, who is now 8, collects more and more exhibits. His whole family helps, even Charles, who is only 3. And people from as far away as California send specimens to him. You need only 2 things to start a museum. You remember, class? What are they? That's right. Eyes that see interesting out-of-door things and hands that pick them up. This book will tell other collectors how William began. Quote, "A delightful account of how one family have worked together making a one-room museum in their house. A warm, lively, amusing little book with plenty of pictures and plenty of action." That was Margaret Parsons of the Worcester Evening Gazette. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight for Benchley Night, even though this had nothing to do with Robert Benchley. Next week, we'll be back. We'll be here all April. And then I go off and do some more art events. But join us each Sunday night. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. You take good care. And we'll see you next Sunday.